It is Locked On NBA Game Night for the night of Wednesday, December 24th. On today's show, the Thunder have lost to the Spurs for the second time in 10 days. What can they do to bounce back on Christmas Day? Plus, which team needs a visit from Santa Claus the most? All of that and more on today's Locked On NBA.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Hello and welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day, especially on this Christmas Eve. I'm Wes Goldberg. Joining me as always, as he does every Wednesday night, it's Tony East. We're going to talk about which teams need a visit from Santa Claus the most in a second. But let's start with a breakdown of this Thunder Spurs game from Tuesday night and talk about what both teams can learn going into their second game of a home-and-home series that's going to be played on Christmas Day. The Spurs get the win on Tuesday night, 130 to 110. It's the second time that they've beaten the Thunder in 10 days. Here's more from Locked On Spurs.
Round two Spurs Thunder. If you thought it would be close, you might have been right. Except for the Spurs had other plans. The Spurs pretty much just broke the Thunder in the game, beating them 130 to 110. You heard that right. What was key for me? Three things. One, the fourth period. Talked to Luke Cornett, talked to Keldon Johnson, asking him, is this a mindset now of this team developing a killer instinct? Why did I bring that up? Because they outscored the Thunder, the team that causes more defensive issues, more turnovers, causes more turnovers, one of the best defensive rated teams. Yeah, outscoring the Thunder 43 to 28 in the final frame. Point number two, again, proving they don't need Victor Wembanyama as much as they might have needed in past games. He only logged in 23 minutes off the bench once again. The Spurs, really got a W with the minimal Wemby. That just goes to the depth of this Spurs team. Point number three, why I love this Spurs win, is that they didn't allow the Thunder to make any type of Thunder runs.
So, Tony, look, Victor Wembanyama, impactful, still coming off the bench in this game. Stephon Castle was great, especially down the stretch with 24 points. Keldon Johnson had 25 points off the bench. Each of these games between the Thunder and Spurs have been really well played, intense games. Yep. What stood out to you, though, on Tuesday night?
Yeah, he got to the point about the blowout at the end, which was revealing because at the start of the fourth quarter, it was a close game. And I checked at that time to be like, okay, what exactly is the thing that is shocking me the most about this? Because they just played in Vegas, and that game was like a little tight, it was low scoring and Wemby was returning and, all that kind of thing. If you look at the end, Jeff just said the stat that I think is shocking. I mean, when I think of the Thunder and their awesome defense, and I just watched them in the finals, obviously covering the Pacers, they just turn everybody over so much, right? And in this game, De'Aaron Fox, 33 minutes, 0 turnovers. Dylan Harper to over 20 minutes, 0 turnovers. And those two combined for 19 assists. Stephon Castle, who has been their lead initiator without those guys, had 3 assists and 2 turnovers. So there are 3 guys who have the ball all the time, are doing a wonderful job keeping the ball all the time in the Spurs' hands. I don't know that their role players are going to be this fantastic, making threes all the time. They got 5 from Keldon Johnson, 4 from Castle, 2 from Barnes, 3 from Vassell. But they give themselves a chance to have a night like this. I mean, beating the Thunder at all is impressive. Beating them by 20 is crazy. When you stack up the possessions and the Thunder can't just transition you and defend you to death, because everybody knows the Thunder's weakness, I'll put that in air quotes, is that their half-court offense is just merely pretty good and not elite. And so if you can get into a game like this where they have to rely on that more often, you can create some separation. And I think keeping the ball in their hands, 9 turnovers in total for the Spurs in this game, and that they were pretty good at that in Vegas as well, has so far been the thing that has made them look very effective, besides Wembanyama, of course, against this Thunder team.
What stands out to me about this Spurs team is their level of discipline. Despite their age, this team is so well disciplined. You mentioned the lack of turnovers. That is kind of a key for them this entire season. De'Aaron Fox has been so important to them. Even in this game, he doesn't shoot the ball well. He still ends up being a plus 18, which was the best on the team, despite going 3 of 9 overall and 0 for 4 shooting, because he had 9 assists to 0 turnovers, to your point, Tony. And so, but it's not just De'Aaron Fox. It's Stephon Castle. It's Devin Vassell. It's Dylan Harper. It's Keldon Johnson just knowing exactly what his game is. The Spurs figuring out, hey, just be a microwave scorer for us off the bench. Luke Cornett doing all the rim protection things that he does. This team is so disciplined. not turning the ball over. They didn't send the Thunder to the free throw line hardly at all.
Yeah.
Shea got 5 free throw attempts. Isaiah Joe went to the line 1 time for 2 free throw attempts. That was it. 7 free throw attempts for the Thunder. So when you're not
Wemby.
turning the ball over and you're not sending them to the free throw line, that margin for error kind of flips your way if you're the Spurs in this game. And then in addition to that, defensively, their closeouts are timely. Their rotations are timely. They're very well coached. For a team as young as they are, they kind of also have that Thunder thing of a quiet confidence and sturdiness that belies their age. And to me, that's really interesting in terms of what that means for this matchup and for a rivalry that seems like it's budding right now.
Yeah, they're 22-7. And when we missed half their games about, like, that's a really good record, right? Yeah, the free throws was also impressive for, everybody talks about the Thunder with free throws all the time. Like, Wemby's rim defense is obviously what it is. It's amazing. But he has that, peak Gobert and Embiid kind of deal where people won't even go, like, into the lane or take a shot there. So your fouls are less often shooting fouls, and they're really less often, happening at the basket. And I assume that this officiating crew is not calling a lot. I mean, the Spurs took more free throws, but there were only 30 fouls in this game total. But, taking 7 free throws is just a shocking number because their efficiency numbers aren't that bad. They shot 54% and made 40% of their threes, but they didn't get to the line that much. And so you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone, especially when you're not forcing all those turnovers to their point. And the Spurs have just something cooking here. I mean, their young guards are like vets already. Like, they look awesome. Like, Harper might be an all-star, like, next year. He's really, really good already. I wonder with the Spurs how long, Harrison Barnes can keep just shooting the snot out of the ball and the role players can keep playing at this level, but they clearly have a blueprint that works, and Wemby's minutes are only going to go up, right? So the Thunder will have to find some other solutions. I thought there was a shot in the fourth quarter that was super revealing to me. Chet Holmgren taking a pretty open corner 3, but Wemby did like a kind of cornet contest where he jumped with his arms up from really far away, and Chet just puts like, a smidge more arc on it. He thinks about lobbing it just a little higher, and it rims out, and that's the whole possession. And he goes 3 for 10 in this game, and it's like Wemby's that level of impact defender, like at any moment, right? And so if your offense is already a little clunky in a game, he's going to completely grind you to a halt sometimes.
If you're shooting near Victor Wembanyama, you're gonna speed up your jump shot, and you're going to just naturally shoot it a little bit higher. So now you're messing up your rotation. Or your shooting form, and you're messing up your normal ball arc, and that's no bueno when it comes to in the NBA. The other thing that stands out to me in particular with this matchup and how the Spurs have used Victor Wembanyama, there's been a lot of talk about how you guard Victor Wembanyama, and we've seen the Thunder put Jalen Williams or Alex Caruso on Wemby. To me, it's all about Wemby's defense in this matchup, and specifically him vaporizing paint touches for the Thunder when he's on the court. The Thunder want to get to the rim. They don't want to live in the mid-range. Yep. The mid-range is almost their play action to what they're getting at the rim. They're going to shoot it from 3. They're going to shoot it at a high percentage, but they don't shoot it at a high volume. What they want to do is get to the basket and get to the free throw line. And when you're taking away the paint, you're taking away that level of those drives, that level of physicality, and that's why they don't get to the line nearly as much when Victor Wembanyama is on the court. And what stands out again is how the Spurs are using Victor Wembanyama. They're making sure that he's always by the rim, planted in the paint. And so they're going to pre-switch a lot of the things that the Thunder are doing on the perimeter, whether it's trying to get guys from the corner or lifting from the corner or whatever, putting Chet Holmgren on the perimeter. They'll play Wemby. They'll let him play off of Chet. They'll let him play off of Hartenstein. They'll let him play off of Caruso. And sometimes all in the same possession, right? They'll pre-rotate all of those things as the Thunder are making their movements. And Wemby is back there. You could see him pointing to his teammates, yelling out calls like, hey, switch this, switch that, to make sure that he's always planted at the rim. And in the last 2 meetings, the Thunder have yet to find a solution for that. And that's going to be a big thing, I think, on Christmas in terms of how they can bounce back against the Spurs. We're going to talk about how specifically the Thunder can try to get a win over the Spurs on Christmas Day after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, One of the most fun places to make the right call is on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, and it's available in 45 states, including California, Texas, and Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You could choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy scores, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. The early payout feature is a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you can get an option to cash out early. And the new stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more on a quarterback's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Two losses to the Spurs in 10 days for the Oklahoma City Thunder. What can they learn from those losses in order to bounce back on Christmas? Rylan Stiles talked about it on Locked On Thunder.
You can't get to the rim against San Antonio. They don't turn the ball over at a high enough clip to get out and transition a ton. So you have to play in the half court. And if you have to play in the half court and you can't get to the rim, you have to be a jump shooting team, which isn't the strength of most of this roster. Their defense allows for more forced turnovers against OKC. The Thunder have the second lowest turnovers in the NBA every game. But against the Spurs, you see some uncharacteristic ones in these first 2 meetings. And I think that whenever you look at this game, you see these repeatable trends for San Antonio of why I was so eager to call them a contender going back to their first matchup in Vegas and still feel that way today. Because the Spurs, tonight, it's all about the rim for me. While the Spurs shot 92% at the rim, they attempted 30% of their shots at the rim. The Thunder shot 93% at the rim, but they only attempted 19% of their shots at the rim.
Tony, looking ahead to the Christmas Day game, what do the Thunder need to do to get a win over the Spurs?
I love our local hosts who are always on it, because the first thing I looked at when I knew we were going to talk about this was go take a peek at the shot chart from the game we're talking about. That was 2 nights ago. And you'll see a lot of shots right at the basket for the Spurs and a lot less shots right at the basket for the Thunder, who love to get to the rim, but are forced to shoot from like 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, free throw line, elbow-ish, whatever. Those aren't bad shots, but your expected value is a lot lower. And over the course of a game, that stacks up to a problematic thing. And it's not like the Thunder missed them. They made quite a few of them, but you don't want to rely on that. How can they get all the way to the basket? Hey, against Wemby, that's not easy. We already talked about that, right? What can they do better to make their offense a little bit more dynamic? To me, that starts with they played 9 minutes with Holmgren and Hartenstein together. That's a good look for them. Those are good players. Chet's been amazing this season. This might be one matchup where I'd be just slightly more interested as the Thunder in playing more perimeter guys at the same time. It's only 9 minutes. It's not crazy. But, for example, that the 8 of those minutes were Hartenstein, SGA, Dort, Holmgren, J-Dub. That's their starters. They were -6 in those minutes. I think they should try to personally see if more speed and dynamic players can be, like Aaron Wiggins, for example, might be good for this. Caruso obviously usually is with his defense. If they can just get a little more spacing and pop and movement into their offense in a way that opens up avenues to the paint or makes Wemby move just a tick more, and over the course of a game can then improve your shot quality. Can that wear the Spurs down? Does that get you enough shooting on the floor? Again, Hartenstein and Chet are awesome players. Chet has to be better. It was on the graphic that Rylan just talked about, but I don't know if that pairing, if this might be the one matchup against the Alien where it's like, yeah, maybe you want to shift away to something a little different.
That's interesting. The lineup changes could help take Victor Wembanyama out of the paint a little bit. If you could space him out and create those looks at the rim, to your point, Tony, I don't even know if you can play Caruso, right? Because you've got Victor Wembanyama helping off of Caruso or Hartenstein or Holmgren. You've got to play one of them, but could you get to those smaller lineups with Jalen Williams at the 5? We've seen the Thunder start games like that last season when Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren were both out, so they've got experience doing that. Something extreme like that could be interesting. I do think that they should approach this game sort of like a playoff game.
Yes.
Even if Mark Dagnall thinks I kind of want to hold some of these cards just in case. It's at the point now where you almost need proof of concept, which sounds crazy because the Thunder already won the championship. They're by far the best team in the league. But to your point, this Spurs team is such a unique counter to everything that the Thunder want to do, all the things the Thunder do to be efficient. The Spurs flip all of that and make them inefficient. And it's not just with Victor Wembanyama on the court, by the way. They're still a plus with Luke Cornett on the court. They have a problem with this team. And I do think it might take some interesting sort of different countermeasures to do that. And starting with the lineups and playing maybe more 5 out to make sure that Wembanyama can't help off those guys and make sure that he gets out on the perimeter could be a good way to do that. I also do look at Chet Holmgren. They need him to be better than he's been in these last 2 games. He's averaging 18 and 8 on 56% shooting this season. Very, very good. The defensive stuff is awesome with him. He had 17 points on 3 of 8 shooting in Vegas, 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting on Tuesday night. Oof. They need him to be better, and they need him specifically to help space the floor.
Yeah, how much is made of Chet versus Wemby every time these games happen, and it's been advantage. It's going to be advantage Wemby. He's extremely good, but it's been like significant in a way that is too much advantage Wemby in these 2 games. And Chet is having probably an all-star season. I don't know. Everybody can debate that on their own merit, but he's been that level of good, taking the leap. I feel like his spacing principles have been much better. And then against the Spurs, he's shooting 33% from the field this season. Like, that just is not going to cut it, right? He has to be a little bit better for them. Like Luke Cornett, probably you could say outplayed him in this game, or at least had more of an impact in this game. And Cornett is amazing. Has Luke Cornett ever messed up anything in his life? Like, is he like a chess grandmaster and makes awesome cakes? Or like, he just seems like he's good at everything. He was awesome in both of these games. So they need more from Chet, significantly more.
There's a few possessions in this game where Hartenstein would pin Victor Wembanyama under the basket while the Thunder were on offense. And I think that might be something that the Thunder found in this game, whether it was on purpose or accidentally. That could be a move where, almost like when you're offensive rebounding, you're just trying to pin a guy onto the baseline under the basket, so far under the basket that he's actually not in position for that offensive rebound. I wonder if that's something that they can go to because Hartenstein is so big and strong. Can you just pin Wemby under there almost to block him from those drives? And there was one play where Hartenstein was like setting these really, really deep screens, like 6 feet away from the basket, right outside the restricted area, to get on one side of the paint, to get Shea a driving lane on the other side of the paint. More of that could also be really helpful too if the Thunder don't want to go extreme to like these crazy small ball lineups.
Can I just vaguely ask you a question about the Spurs, who are clearly very good? Like, they are making shots this season at a pretty high level, by the way, like in a way I didn't expect. They're currently 9th in 3-point percentage. How much fear, Wes, do you feel like you have about the general shooting quartet of Vassell, Barnes, Champagnie, and Keldon Johnson, if you're a defensive team?
Yeah. I'm not scared of Champagnie. I'm really not even scared of Keldon Johnson as well as he's been shooting the ball. But when you have the gravity of Wembanyama in the paint, and there's like a million screenshots of him out there of just 4 guys around him in the paint, then all these shots are wide open for these guys, and they are more than capable of making them. And then when you do close out hard, they punish you by attacking off the dribble.
I agree that those guys are somewhat, but not extremely threatening. And Wemby is obviously a wild card that makes what I'm about to say dumb. But like, is there a way if you're the Thunder who are just pressure, force turnovers, so they even like up that a bit, like get up on, send a ton of pressure towards Fox, towards Harper, towards Castle, and really make them make the right decision fast, constantly, all night long. Because if you can even up their collective turnover number from 2 to 8 or 2 to 7, that's still a good number. If you're the Spurs guys, you're like, yeah, we only had 7 turnovers as a unit. That would give you 5 extra transition chances, which is where the Thunder are just incredible. You know, that would probably come at the expense of shooters because you're not leaving Wemby. So if you aren't that scared of that group, and I would make this trade-off as the Thunder myself, I would try that. I would up the ball pressure some and try to just make them, even if they make the right call, make them do it a lot and over and over and over again.
I think you're right. And I think part of these 2 games was the Spurs' intensity was just over what the Thunder were trying to do, right? Like they came out with more energy, more physicality. There's no questioning what the Thunder can do when they hit their peak thunderiness. And it just never felt like they did that in any of these games. And part of that is because the Spurs are good and they're a unique counter to them, but also some of it is on the Thunder to kind of amp that up a little bit more. All right. Thunder Spurs, one of the primetime games on Christmas Day, in addition to 4 other games. But coming up, Santa Claus will be making his rounds tonight. Which team needs a visit from Santa the most? Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun. Because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need a dessert now. Those late night interviews hit, and suddenly you need chips at midnight. DoorDash is built exactly for that too. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure that you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, even a phone charger for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. If you've enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on your podcast app. Tony, it's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, which means that Santa will be on his sleigh in a few hours. So we thought that we could talk about which teams need a visit from Santa the most. Tony, what do you think? What team needs a visit, and what do they need under their tree?
Well. As the Santa hat wearer, I feel like I should go first. And there are a couple teams that rose to the top for me, one of which I texted you about before, but I'm not going to talk about that team first. I'm going to talk about the Utah Jazz first. The Utah Jazz need a box under the tree wrapped up real nice that says common sense or give me a break or something to that effect. The NBA and their fans should be insulted that the Utah Jazz on January, I'm not even saying, that'd be nice if it was January, December 23rd, are saying, we're going to rest Yusuf Nurkic. Larry Markkinen, we're managing his groin injury. Give me a break, man. I know we're in this NBA tanking revisit discussion time right now, and they have a top 8 protected pick and yada, yada, yada. For Christmas, NBA fans deserve better. Jazz, open your box and give everybody a break. Come on.
For being in Utah, man, they need to find Jesus, don't they? Like, they need to... the sins that they are committing against the NBA and the basketball gods. They are doubling down on it year over year. I think, and I've said this before, if the Utah Jazz were in Philadelphia, their front office would be fired. Would have been pushed out of the league, just like the Sixers went. But nobody cares because they're in Utah and they're a small market and just doesn't, frankly, it just doesn't matter.
And this is the last year their picks protected. So, like, I get why they would do it. Everybody understands it. It just is like insult. Dude, they're like playing kind of good. It's not even the new year yet. Like, it's so
just imagine if they've kept some of the good players that they've just traded away the last couple of years too for draft picks. This is the most, it's the most obscene tanking job since the process. And nobody cares.
Makes me mad. I care. I am mad. And Santa and his wrath. The naughty list is just the Utah Jazz. Everybody else.
They're the one team that is blatantly tanking.
Already.
You could argue that, like, there's other bad teams. Like, but Sacramento and New Orleans, like, didn't want to be bad. The Clippers didn't want to be bad. They're not blatantly tanking. They just suck, you know?
Right.
Like, the Wizards are bad and are rebuilding, but they're in the natural, growth, like, rebuild process. Like, they're in a life cycle of team building.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just playing young players, and their young players are bad. So it's what it is. So I'm with you on the Utah Jazz. I'm going to go with the Clippers. And the Clippers, very much on the naughty list, and they're hoping that they can get a time machine under the tree so that they go back and redo everything that they've done the last few years, starting with the Paul George trade, and then basically every decision they've made since then. The Paul George trade was a nightmare. The fact that they gave away Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I always go back to this. I remember being in Los Angeles covering their training camp or preseason during Shai's rookie year, and somebody on the Clippers coming up to me, unprompted, and being like, watch out for Shai. That guy's going to be a star.
Wow.
That guy worked for the Clippers. And then they traded him a few months later. And man, they are kicking themselves so much because they knew it, right? Like, maybe they didn't know it would be this, but they knew he was special. And so to trade him for Paul George and for it to just not work out, Paul George's not even on the roster anymore, the Kawhi Leonard thing. And the decision just generally to hitch your wagon to Kawhi Leonard was maybe the worst decision of all. He led you astray. He led you down this fruitless path. And now you've got nothing to show for it. And so I think the Clippers would wish that they could have a time machine and go back, because that first team before the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George stuff, that team went to the playoffs Shai's rookie year and battled a Warriors team, lost in the first round, but battled them pretty good. And there was some promising stuff happening there, and they just gave up on all of it.
Tobias Harris, Lou Will, and Trez support your decision here.
Boban.
Did you even realize the unintentional double joke you made when you said they need a time machine under the tree? Did Aspiration plant this Christmas tree, Wes?
The Clippers are walking into the living room like, look at all of our trees, and there's like look at
so
all our
many
Christmas trees,
Christmas
and there's
trees.
no Christmas trees in there.
The Christmas tree farm that is the Intuit Dome is perfect for this. Okay, the one I did text you about before, who needs Santa?
All right, let's do it.
The Miami Heat need Santa to give them good vibes, mostly. They need Santa to help them figure out what happens now that teams have kind of scouted their new offense and figured out that it can, in fact, be slowed down with slight tweaks to your defensive principles on this given night. Everything was awesome. The new offense was great. They're not setting any screens. Look at the Heat go. Oh, my God, they can't win a game. They've been hurt. Obviously, a lot of teams have been hurt. Khalil Ware's nice. Everything else needs a little bit of just like they need 2 high-spirited wins, and I think they'll feel a lot better. But the vibes are bad. The offense does not feel like this machine that it felt like early in the season, as you know better than I do. They need vibes, and they need a reality check of like, do we need to tweak things just maybe a little bit more to run some of the stuff that has worked for basketball for forever and ever and ever that every team continues to do every single year?
Yeah, you could even say like they just need a couple pick and rolls under the tree just to
Yes.
bring them out of whatever they're doing here. And look, they've lost 9 of their 10 games. Eric Spoelstra is running a few more pick and rolls and set plays, not nearly as much as the rest of the league. But it's hard to like reinstall stuff when you've basically uninstalled it to start the year. and this Heat offense is a little bit of a front running offense, right? Like you need a couple of good wins to your point to kind of get back on track, keep opponents on their heels. You kind of need that stuff. And so when it's going really well, it's going really well, and the vibes are great. And then when it stops, it's kind of just like a car breaking down, and now everybody's frustrated, and now you got to deal with this thing. So and it's kind of hard to figure out how to start it back up. So that's kind of where the Heat are at right now. I agree with you. They need a little bit of that. But yeah, Tyler Hero's missed a bunch of games. He'd obviously be helpful. Norm Powell's cooled off a little bit. Bam is in the middle of a slump that's really hurt them. But yeah, I think a couple of wins and they'll be right back on track. I've got the 76ers needing a visit from Santa, and I think they need an amnesty provision under the tree.
For 2 players.
You know what? They can even live with the Paul George contract, but can they get an amnesty provision for Joel Embiid? I think this team really has something and might be able to build something if not for Embiid's contract being on the books for what it is over the next million years. If they can get an amnesty provision on Embiid and just wipe that away, and like Embiid has had moments now, he hurt his knee on Tuesday night, which is unfortunate. You really do hope that this stuff it keeps piling on for Embiid. So you can even say that Embiid needs like a new body under the Christmas tree, and maybe you don't need to amnesty clause him. But if the 76ers could just wipe away that contract off the books, between Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, a lot of these guys that they have, I like Mbona. I like a lot of the Kelly Oubre always plays hard for them. There's some really good stuff going on, but it just seems impossible to build around it because of Embiid's contract and because of Paul George's contract.
Yeah, he played pretty well against Brooklyn 2 nights ago when this was out. Last night, actually, when this was out. And it still just feels like with the way their team is, Edgecombe cooled off since the start. He's so fast and dynamic. Maxey obviously is as well. That their whole kind of vibe and energy shifts. And they have a positive on-off like Joel Embiid does this season, but it doesn't feel that way for some reason. And I just wonder if it's like 2 teams in one. The Joel Embiid's on the floor team and the Joel Embiid is not on the floor team, and how challenging that can be to be a thing every single night during a season, as they found out in their loss to the Brooklyn Nets, who would have been my last team, but I don't know if we have time to do more teams.
Do it quick.
The Nets need a Michael Porter Jr. trade under the tree.
He's playing too well.
Super rich to say when I just crapped all over the Jazz for their tanking measures. But the Nets are playing good. They're like 500 when he plays this season. I don't think they want that. Jordy Fernandez can freaking coach. So I would like Santa to tell everybody that. Michael Porter Jr. playing too good for the Nets.
Brooklyn getting something valuable for Michael Porter Jr. while the Nuggets are sitting on an unfortunate Cam Johnson injury would be terrible. That's pretty tough for the Nuggets too. But that is going to wrap up Locked On NBA Game Night. Make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Tony East, I'm Wes Goldberg. This has been Game Night. Merry Christmas, everybody.